My, Alex, you're so well attired in that
Oh.
that what is it? Burgundy suede jacket, velvet.
It's velvet. So
It's very inspiring. Very
oh well,
inspiring.
thank you. Thank you. Well, credit where credit is due. It actually is symbolic of my of the actual owner, Troy Warden. He left us at my house. So.
Oh, Troy's been staying with you. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yes. He's crashed at my place, but this is effectively a vest to symbolize my friendship with him. That's how I'm going to spin it, at least.
I enjoyed your conversation with him, by the way. I saw that on YouTube.
Thank you. I just uploaded the second one.
Right. Okay. Well, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah.
Don't
forget to subscribe to my channel, Alex Madacci. Thank you.
So, what did you guys do in your free time?
Well, one of the things we did is we went to the National Shrine of the Basilica of the Immaculate Conception. Translate that into English, please.
Yeah, the National Shrine for the Immaculate Conception, which happens to be a basilica, but the word basilica is not in the title.
Yeah, we went to that thing.
Okay. That's right across the street from where I went to the seminary.
Oh, okay. So you're very familiar with it. Well, maybe you can bring some light to this discussion that I was having with myself, because I can be a very annoying person to debate with sometimes. Mm-hmm. And that's the idea of iconography. That's a stupid
icons. You mean icons? Icons.
Right? Yeah.
Well, my screen is filled with all kinds of icons. there are icons everywhere on my screen.
Well, you know, there's an idea out there that anything with an ism at the end of it, ism. We have socialism, capitalism, leftism, whatever ism.
Right.
It ism a thingum. So now we have iconism. Well, actually, we don't have it now. We've always had it. So, what do you think about icons? Are they an ism or an ology?
It's an ology, not an ism.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's an ology. The history of icons is rather interesting in the Eastern Church, the Greek Orthodox Church, the Russian Church, and the Armenian Church. There's actually a church here in Santa Bumpkin that is a Russian Orthodox church, and Mariana Mashik, who I had on my radio show, her mother painted 2 icons and donated them to the Russian church. So, and I went by the other day and I saw them. It was a beautiful. I should have taken some photographs, and I will take photographs before we upload this podcast, so we'll have something to look at. But anyway, the whole history of icons is to inspire to the transcendent, is to lift up. It's the same concept as the cathedral itself, or the basilica itself, or the church itself. The whole idea is that there's a material object that lifts up the heart, that lifts up the soul, and makes the soul think of transcendent things rather than merely material things. That's the theory. Now, there's a group of people who are opposed to this because they think that people are actually worshiping the painting itself, the actual physical image itself, which is not true. But because they're so anti-religious and they're so atheistic about it, they spin this.
Well, it's not just atheists.
Yard.
It's not just atheists. It's also Protestants. They're called the iconoclasts. That's one of my favorite insults of all time, iconoclast.
Well, to clast means to break.
Mm-hmm.
So iconoclastic means to break icons. And you certainly are an iconoclastic individual. I certainly am an iconoclastic individual, because the word iconoclastic has actually transformed in our language to mean somebody who breaks tradition, somebody who breaks down things that are worshipped and things that are found sacred and things that are reverenced. And it could be an idea that I could be an iconoclast. We're concerning. Well, actually, it fits today. I mean, so I'm iconoclastic with the prevailing icon of Marxism.
Sure.
See, it works that way.
Yep. Sure, not that very hard to break that model, though. But that icon. But what about icons? Because that's very nice when painted that way. But let's paint with a slightly broader brush. Yeah. Not all icons are necessarily symbolizing good things. So far, we've only been talking about Catholic icons and Eastern Christian icons. actually, just this Sunday, my pastor was talking about the golden calf, which certainly was an icon. And it is more, and a lot of people, we look back on, he made this illustration that we sophisticated modern intellectuals tend to look back on those silly little pagan idols as just tomfoolery. But my pastor pointed out that there's a symbolism behind it. The golden calf, was made out of gold, representing wealth. The calf represented fertility, which meant abundance of offspring, and also was a livestock symbol, thus representing wealth, which, having lots of livestock was basically like oil back in the day.
Are you talking about the golden calf that Moses found, that the Israelites had crafted when he went up to the mountain to get the Ten Commandments?
We're not supposed to call him. We don't call him Moses anymore. We call him Chuck Heston. That's the only thing.
Right. Actually, there were 15 commandments, but he tripped and fell, and one of them.
All right, Mel Brooks, we get it. Yeah.
I bring you the 15. The 10 Commandments.
So anyway, that joke has more mileage than people.
I wonder what the 15 commandments were.
Anyway, don't be clumsy. That was probably all 5 of them.
If it were up to me, the way I fall these days, we wouldn't have any commandments. All 15 would
be anarchy. Yes,
That's right.
It'd be one big jack. You'd all be about jacking off. That's that. Right. Watching porn.
Right.
In any event, getting back on point to the golden calf and the analogy, trying to get you back on point, is that just because it's an icon doesn't necessarily mean you're lifting your eyes up to something that's good.
Yeah.
So
not every symbol. All icons are symbols, but not every symbol is an icon. I beg to differ with you.
Yeah. Tell me how.
Well, I just did. I just made
define your terms, please.
Every icon is a symbol of something, because it's not. It represents something that is not present to you at hand. For instance, the icons of the Virgin Mary and the child Jesus, which is a very popular theme, and Oriental iconography. Obviously, the Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus are not sitting there for you, so you have a representation to lift up your mind and your heart in reverence to these. Now, there are symbols, like this. Well, that's a symbol right there.
I was thinking like Zaijin symbols.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a different. That's spelled differently, by the way. It's actually spelled.
I'm messing with you. Calm down.
I'm messing with you.
Stop being so serious.
But anyway, so every icon is a symbol, but not every symbol is an icon. So there you go. Yeah.
Okay. But my big interest in iconography. This is often. My mother was raised Armenian Protestant. My father was raised Armenian Orthodox. And so, of all the issues they squabble about, I would say iconography is where the fire and brimstone meets the road. But it's fascinating because my mother has a strong affinity towards the music of the organ, the stained glass windows, the regalia of the priest and the clergy and the parishioners, and my father as well. But as it turns out, in modern day America, most Protestant churches, they have a sort of come as you are policy. Wear whatever you want. The pastor usually is wearing jeans. The band is playing modern music, and I personally don't have a problem with those sort of things. But the discussion comes up: is the church missing something? Are we losing something?
Well, as you well know, as a practicing Christian, you're aware of the fact that the attachment to symbols and material representations of divinities and deities and sacred things varies widely. The Mennonites, for instance, and the Quakers are very Spartan. If you visit a Mennonite church or a Quaker church, it's bare wood and it's very plain. There are no objects, no glitz, no glamour, no icons, no crosses, no statues, no candles, no nada, no nothing. You just sit there on a hard wooden bench and you feel miserable. Because you're a sinner. Get on your knees and repent. Right? You're a failure.
Fire and brimstone.
How
and blah, blah.
dare you enjoy anything? In fact, I used to kid Charlton Heston that he was a Mennonite, and he said, "Why?" I said, "Because you believe that if it feels good, it must be wrong."
Well, I'm sure he
Yeah.
took it very well, right?
Actually, he's a Calvinist, but that's just something.
Oh, well, I'm sure that God will forgive him for that. In any event,
So you have that on one extreme, and then you went to the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception with Troy on Sunday.
which is one big icon.
The whole thing. I mean, everything is contrived to the pageantry to represent the pageantry of the Catholic Church. They put on a great show. At least they used to, especially when it was in Latin, because it was a mysterious language, and only priests and a few altar boys knew what was being said there, right?
Yeah.
And some nuns, and we know why they call them nuns, right? We know that.
Don't get no. Your jokes are getting old.
We
I
have to
know
do
them
a
before you say them.
We have to do a podcast on religious humor. Anyway, so to get back to the iconography, so you have experienced the extreme when you go to the Catholic shrine.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And so what was your reaction to it?
Well, my reaction was, wow, this is a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of care. It was a revelation to me. I finally realized why so many Catholics have so much faith in the church and the Pope and the structure rather than God. Certainly not all Catholics. That statement was not directed towards all Catholics, but certainly some. Why they're so fixated on so many superficial aspects of the Catholic Church. It made so much sense to me because it was so powerful. And my biggest complaint about symbols is that they're usually contracted for, and built by, and financed by the church.
Well, I'd like to disagree slightly here because I think you're wrong. It's not the people. It's not the
I
people.
disagree slightly because you're wrong. Okay,
You're wrong. Yeah, because you're quite wrong, and I need to point this out. The attachment of the pageantry and the artwork, the icons, the paintings, the marble, the altars, the cathedrals, the stained glass windows, all of this is not either enjoying that or celebrating that or raising their mind to God. It's both and. They're using these physical things in order to raise their souls and raise their hearts to God. Sursum corda in Latin, lift up your heart. So I disagree with your assessment that the Catholics are just attached to the superficial material glories.
No. I didn't make that conclusion.
But I even want to go further. I want to even go a little bit further. I mean, let's go to the secular world. When you go to the symphony, or you go to the ballet, or when you go to an art show, the physical object. There are people who devote their whole lives to fine art. To going, have you gone to the National Gallery?
I do demand an apology because that was not my conclusion whatsoever. No. I do believe that there is a power to the art aspect. I mean, it is gorgeous aesthetically, and for example, Rembrandt is one of my favorite painters, and one of the reasons why I love his paintings is because they really do remind you of the whole message of the gospel and of the power of it and the stories within the gospel.
Well, he speaks very highly of you too. I want you to know that. Yeah.
Yes, you would know. You would know Rembrandt. But
we went to school together, actually. Yeah.
So I have no qualms with art, and I have no qualms with what art is trying to do, assuming, of course, that it's a good intent behind the art. And my qualm is more of using it as a sort of in my opinion, the art, at least what I felt in the church, was more of a distraction from the divine and more of, this is only my reaction. It's not what I think it is to other people, but my personal reaction is that it seemed to distract me more of the power of the artists and the brilliance of the artists rather than who they were trying to model the art after.
Okay, well, that's your problem because you're a Protestant. But You know what, though? This sets up a very good discussion we should have in our next podcast about whether or not art is objective, whether or not there is actually good art and bad art, and we can know the difference.
What if art objects to that?
Well, art, that's a nickname for Arthur. Which Arthur did you have in mind? Anyway, we're at the end of our podcast time, Alex, so
I'm sure we are.
Happy iconography to you, Alex. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Hmm.